Alright guys, welcome to the second part of the series, Bootcamp Whatever. Today we're actually going to go ahead and get started. We are going to install Node.js and then verify that it's running, as well as init a new Nux project and get that running as well. So by the end of this lesson today, you will actually have a web application fully up and running. And that will be the template base that we start all of our modifications from. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to install Node.js. What Node.js is, and it's not that important that you really remember this, but if you're curious and you want to know, Node.js is what's called a runtime that will execute JavaScript on server side. So typically JavaScript, the language we're going to be using to program, that is only ran in the browser, on browser side, client side, which is basically your computer. When you are on a website, any JavaScript running client side on that website is actually executing within your browser on your computer. That's called a client side. That is any code that executes on your user's computer, that is client side code. There's also the concept of what we call server side code. Server side code is code that executes on your server, typically your hosting server, wherever you have your website hosted. I'll show you a way we can actually host it from our own computers, and then later in the program we'll be putting it live on a server as well. And any code ran on those servers is considered server side. So remember, if it's the code's being ran on your user's computer, it's client side. If it's being ran on the computer that the application is being hosted from, it's server side. The benefit of one or the other is that technically any client side code ran in your user's browser could be viewed or potentially modified by your user, versus any code ran on your server, they have absolutely no visibility, no way to modify it. It's all locked within your server. So server-side code is more secure. You don't really need to worry about that for now, but just know that Node.js is the runtime that we're going to execute our JavaScript from. It's going to help us with our development. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to Google, and you're just going to search Node.js. You'll see nodejs.org. Make sure it's that exact one. Right from here, you can kind of just click on the download section. Go ahead and just get the installer for whatever you're on. If you're on Linux, it's going to be a little bit different. Get with me, but I don't think anyone here is with Linux. But if you are, I can help you through this. Otherwise, just pick which one you're on. I'm a 64-bit Windows installer. If you're on Windows and you're not sure if you're 32 or 64-bit, you can hold the Windows key on your keyboard and hit E. And when you do, nope, I lied. That Windows key pause break. Sorry. That's going to bring up your about information. There's other ways to get here. That's the quickest way I know. If you know another way, it doesn't matter. But as you can see here, I am 64-bit operating system. So I'm going to go ahead and download the 64-bit binary. That will go ahead and it will start to download. Once that is done, in your downloads folder, you're going to see you have a Node installer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that Node installer. And you would basically just go through this. Now, I'm not going to go all the way through. It's a basic installer. If you've ever installed something, you get the gist of it. I already have Node installed, so there's no need for me to really go through it. However, just run through that. Once you're done, you should be able to open a command prompt. This is what it looks like on Windows. It should also be called command prompt on Mac, if I'm not mistaken. One easy way to do it on Windows is to hold your Windows key on your keyboard, hit R. When you do that, you're going to get a box like this. And if you type in CMD and you hit enter, you'll see that you're going to go ahead and get the command prompt, just like this. All right. Now, once our command prompt's open and Node is done installing, if you type in node-v, node space -v, and you hit enter, it's going to spit out the version of Node you have installed. I have 16.32. The latest on the website right now looks like 16.5. That's not a big deal. It's still version 16. Everything will be good. If you're watching this video at some point in the future, this could obviously be a higher version. But typically you will always grab the latest stable version. That's what LTS means. It means latest stable version. And that's it for Node. All right. So now that we have Node installed, we are going to want to init our project. So before we do anything, we're going to need to pick a location on our computer. For now, Windows users, I recommend you go to desktop, and I recommend you just do it from here. So I'm going to call this my first project. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And the reason I say do it on desktop is because we're going to need to navigate to the same folder from within our command prompt. So you'll see in the background on my folder on my desktop, well, on Windows, no matter where you're at, if you type CD for change directory space and you type desktop, it should always take you into this folder. Especially if you're already in your user profile, which is where your command prompt will typically start. So now that we're in this folder, I can actually then hit CD and do my first project, and now you'll see that I am actually inside this folder, but in my command prompt terminal. Now, if for whatever reason that doesn't work, so let's go here, 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 here. This is just moving me up a directory. I'm now here. So if I put in desktop now, yeah, okay, so it's not no matter where you're at. So it's only because desktop was in the user folder already. So from here, obviously, this method won't work. So one trick you can use is to go in here. I'm recording, not right now. Is to go in here on your folder. You copy what's in here. So sometimes on Windows, you have to click to get it to show up. So you just click into it, copy this. And then if you go back to your terminal, you can do change directory again, space, and just paste that full value in and hit enter, and then you will get to your directory. All right, and CLS if you want to clear, it's just a habit of mine. It just clears out anything that might already be in there, so it keeps it clean. All right, so now that we have our directory created, again, we have Node installed, so we're good there. We're in the directory on our terminal. Now it's time to init. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to init a new Nux project. So if you just do Nux.js init, search that on Google, you're going to get an installation page here. So you're going to click in, and we're going to use NPM. NPM is a package manager. It's built into Node by default. You don't really need to know the ins and outs again of that. That's that black box we talked about, but just know we are going to use it. So it says npm init nuxtap. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go npm init and then nuxtap. And then where it says project name, you can literally put the name of your project. So I'm just going to put demo app. I know we already named it my first project. We probably could have just named the folder projects. This is going to create another folder based on what you name it, but just do npm init nux-app demo app and hit enter. Now it's going to start to init. It's going to take us through some choices. We already have our project name as demo app, so we can just hit enter. We're going to use JavaScript, not TypeScript, so hit enter. For our package manager, use your arrow keys and go down to NPM. See how it's highlighted in blue? Hit enter. For our UI framework, we are going to use Bootstrap, but we don't want the Vue version. We want the actual full version of Bootstrap. So we're just going to hit none for now. For any of this, leave everything unchecked. We are going to end up using Axios as well at some point, but we'll cover that when it comes. So if you hit spacebar, you can fill it in, but we don't want to do that. So make sure none of these have the little asterisk, and then if they're all empty, hit enter. Same thing for here. We're not going to use any linting or anything. It's just going to complicate the project for now. There's no need to worry about this yet. We're just going to hit enter. For our testing framework, we're not going to do any type of unit testing or code testing. We'll test our own code in the sense that we will run it and see if it works, but we're not going to write code to test our code. We can cover that later if it comes up. But for now, we're just going to hit none. Now, this is asking if we want it as a single page application or a universal SSR/SSG. SSR means server-side render. That's going to give this application basically a layer of it that will execute on the server before it's rendered on your user's computer. So that's that server-side, client-side. You don't really need to worry about this right now. This will become a lot more clear once we start working with backends. For right now, we're just going to be doing a lot of front-end stuff, but to make sure we have that functionality, go ahead and make sure universal selected and just hit enter. We want to run our application as a node server hosting, so just make sure server is selected and hit enter. Leave all of this empty and just hit enter. And don't worry about your GitHub username. We'll get to that to a later point. If there's anything filled in, just hit backspace like I just did. It'll wipe it out. And when it's empty, just hit enter. When it says version control system, you can go ahead and hit git. We do want to have it in there for now, just so it is tracking those changes, but we'll cover git in a later section. So just hover over git and hit enter. All right. It's going to install everything. It's basically installing all the packages we need for this particular application, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Perfect. All right, so now we need to, as it says, we need to run npm install -g for global. Oh, that's for the update. We actually probably don't need to do that. When you add a new package, or if you pull a node application to a computer, it's usually good to do an npm I. And what that does, that installs the node packages. And let me show you what that's for, essentially. Oops, that wasn't even the right directory, so we didn't need to do it. I apologize. So once this is done initting, it created that other directory. We do need to navigate into that directory. So just like before, you have it here, click in, copy that, come back, change directory, space, paste it. Now we're in that directory. Now I'll show you what that npm I does. So these node modules right here, so Node.js modules, these are our packages. These are all the different code packages that our project is using right now. Don't worry about knowing what's in here. It's not important. I'm just showing you that these are all the different third-party pieces of code that we have included in here that we're not ever going to look at. We're not ever going to go through this code, ever. These all work out of the box, and we're just going to take that at face value. It's very important that you accept that and don't worry about needing to know what's in there, because we're not ever going to dive into those. So if I were to have cloned this project, because node modules typically will not get pushed to a source control, to like a Git account, a GitHub account, because it's just too big, and we can reinstall them anyway, so they typically get left out. So when you clone a project from source control, and we're going to do that later, the only reason I'm showing you this is just so you know how to get your node modules back. If you're on a node project and you see the package JSON, and this is basically showing you what packages we have installed, so core.js, Nuxt, Vue, Webpack. All right, those are our packages, and there's a whole lot of dependencies. All you do is you go back into your terminal. Sorry, I did not mean to start that. And you're going to npm I and enter. And notice I'm in the actual demo app folder. It's very important that you be in the directory that your package.json exists in, because that is basically the installation manifest for your project. This file tells Node what applications to get online, or from the Node repository, what packages to get, and it puts it in these node modules folders. So we have that here now. All right, so this is already going to be there once we init. I just wanted to show you how to put that in there. So now that we have that, we can actually go ahead, don't worry about any of this, we can go ahead and start our application. So we can hit npm run dev, and I'm going to hit enter. And what this is doing is, if we take a look at this package.json file right here, and we edit it here, you can see that it has scripts, and you execute the scripts of the project you're in by calling npm space command run space, and then the actual whatever you have the keyword. Like I could put this dev wahoo and then save it, and instead of npm run dev, it would be npm run dev wahoo. So it's literally just whatever you put in here. In this case, I put npm run dev. It ran this dev command, which just runs Nuxt. That's all. It's just a shortcut configured. The reason you do that is sometimes you want to execute several commands. Like if I want to do Nuxt and generate, I can make a shortcut command that's just npm run generate, instead of having to type npm run Nuxt generate or Nuxt start or Nuxt build. So you'll see it says listening on localhost 3000. If I were to just do